Hello, everybody. I'm Ananya, and welcome to my podcast. The theme of which is how do you really stay artistic? So, as a guest today, we have Marianne, a self-taught artist who creates portraits in mixed media. Her art attempts to promote self-awareness. And welcome, Mary. It's lovely having you on board today. Would you want to say a few
Thank
words?
you. Thank you, Ananya. To be here. I'm really excited about this. And thank you for being patient with me on the technical end. Mhm. So,
Perfect. Then I think we'll begin.
Okay.
So, the first
Got some
question I
questions
had
for
for
me.
you was how and when did you realize that art was your calling, that you wanted to pursue a career in art?
Okay, how did I know art was my calling and that I wanted to pursue art? Okay, it's kind of it's not a real direct path, but I would say it's kind of, there's a long undulating history. But I knew I was creative as a child. I always was drawing on everything, whatever I could get, graph paper, anything, just like hotel pads, like little things, just always drawing and painting. I think it was 9 years old or 10. My dad bought me my first easel and acrylic set of paints, and they were Winsor Newton professional grade, you know. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I remember standing in the living room of our house and trying to paint the front yard, looking out the window. And I had no training or anything. But I loved it. And basically, come to find out years later, I'm going to jump into this other part real quick, and then I'll go back. But basically, coming to find out, my whole family, my dad's side, his whole family, all the women on his side, were painters, and I didn't even know that until I got older. And then I guess on my mom's side, a lot of them were musicians. So I didn't really know that until I got older. And it's not like art was ever really a thing that was brought up. I guess I started with, I had an interest in fashion design, but I also loved psychology. And I remember in high school they had on career day, they had people come in from all different industries, and there was art. Like, art was not a thing. So basically the only two things I could imagine that I had any interest in was psychology and fashion design. So anyway, then by the time I entered college, I was a psych major, and then I changed my major to textile design. So I worked many years as a textile designer, and but I had started painting self-taught. I mean, aside from one drawing class in 8th grade, I remember liking that very much. But aside from that, I started painting again, the original, I was 10 years old with the easel, but I started really painting when it was actually graduation, after graduating from high school. And I remember spilling all of my water cups, my paint water, water cups full of paint water. So it's like puddles of all different colors were just all over my carpet in my bedroom growing up. So I was 18 at that point, but yeah, I think my mom was planning on remodeling anyway, so somehow she didn't get angry with me. But anyway, so I that was when I really started, and I became just really fascinated with it. I tried a lot of different things. I bought like the biggest canvases right at the beginning, like 8 by 10 feet. And I'm like, who would do that? Like, most people are like, I'm scared of the canvas. I want to start tiny, and then, oh my God, I can't, I got to work up to that large and big canvas. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was really a fun challenge. And but once I got into textile design, that really fed it more. That really fed my passion for painting. I remember I would work all day in textiles and then come home and I'd paint all night long.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wait to get home every night from work to just paint. So I painted all night long. And then let's see, 5 years passed, and I was now, let's see, our company in textiles, they laid off everyone, and the industry went to China, obviously. Sorry if I'm messing with my hair. I just got 2 feet cut off my head. So anyway, it's a little different. However, let's see. And so I painted every day for many years. And then, the company closed down. I went through many changes. I had a lot of things happening in my life, just life, but a lot of challenges. And so I took years off from painting, and then I would get into it again. And I just really, it came to, like, I guess about 2020, COVID was a terrible year for many. And obviously so many awful things have happened, and many people, from an artist perspective, I've heard a lot of good things. And because we've had more time to, and everybody has, have more time to slow down, and sort of question what you want to do with your life. And it was just like, we just had a lot of time, and I started listening to, and this is a shout out, because I started listening to Art Juice podcasts. I don't know if you've heard of them. You've got to hear them. They're great. It's called Art Juice, and they're 2 British artists, and they are so cool. So I started watching them in 2020, and I started learning as much as I could about the business of being an artist, about how to be an artist, how to go about it. I knew, like, I had a certain style and voice at that point, but I really needed to learn the business end of it. So I'm still learning. So they really inspired me. They're a funny bunch, but it's very candid, kind of casual conversation, but they have lots and lots of good educational, good tips for emerging artists. So basically, I've been an emerging self-taught artist. And then since 2020, since I put my everything into it, it's amazing. These things started happening. I entered my first submission, my first exhibit. It was international, and it was virtual. But I won number 1, first place, and I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my God.
No, that's great.
Wow. Yeah, I'm humbled by it. It's just, I'm like, wow, really, there's just so many talented artists out there. So
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's, sorry, that was kind of a long answer. Did I answer your question?
You did, yeah. And that's lovely. That's inspiring, because you shifted from another industry altogether. So to still not give up on hope like that, even after getting laid off by the industry, by the firm, to still continue on and do it, it's great. So that's great.
Yeah. It was a transition.
Yeah.
It took a while.
So the second question I had for you was, where do you find your inspiration from? Is it something you draw off your mind, or do you look at other works and try to replicate those?
This has really come to I'm able to answer this now. Like as I get closer and closer to finding my unique voice. And I think a lot of my inspiration comes from just being genuine. And I really, I love, okay, so I told you I love psychology at the beginning. Well, that's kind of stuck with me all along. So I actually did study clinical mental health for a short time. That didn't work out. But anyway, I love, I talk about layers a lot in my work, and talk about what lies beneath the layers, and it's really interesting to me to build up that canvas. And so it's a physical thing, and it's also like very process focused. I found that I really enjoy the process of it.
Okay.
Not, I mean, yes, of course, the outcome, you want that to work out. You want people to, like your work and want to love, like looking at it and experiencing it. But the process is probably, it's just as important to me. And I've learned that just the last few years. So, did I answer the question?
You don't really replicate, basically, you mean? You don't try and copy others' works. You don't replicate anything.
Well, I think every artist, I mean, has inspiration by looking at other artists. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to look at other artists. I mean, because I don't think, there's very few artists that have they just come out of nowhere and start drawing or painting or whatever. I mean, there's always inspiration. It's, we look at the masters and then art history, and there's so many inspiring artists. And so definitely, I mean, and I think, it's very hard to to find something that hasn't been done yet, but
Yeah.
it's like we're all different, we're all unique, and so it's really hard to even we can hardly, I would say, as an artist, we could barely replicate our own work again exactly, especially when it comes to more abstract pieces.
Got it, absolutely.
So yeah, and so I mean, I forget who said great artists copy, no wait, good artists copy, great artists steal, or something. I don't know, but
I'm not too sure.
yeah. So everybody, yeah. So when you're, I guess in the beginning, a lot of artists are trying to find their voice, and I've heard this from a lot of artists, even coming out of art school. They've got a lot of the technical knowledge, but sometimes, and this is for everyone, I think at some point it just has challenges to try to get their voice, to really feel authentic, and that their art represents them, and I think that's the point of having that visual communication with your audience. So yeah, I mean, just and inspiring every day, every life is inspiring.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's
the failure, the success, and failure. Sorry.
So the third question I had for you was, what, in your opinion, is a successful work of art? Like, everybody has their own successful work of art, right? So what is your opinion of a successful work of art?
Okay, what do I think is a successful work of art?
Yeah.
Okay, for me, okay, if I'm looking at a piece, it's going to be color that first attracts me. That's going to be the first thing that I go for. I mean, I didn't talk about that, but that was always my first passion, was color. And then probably composition.
Okay.
The layout.
Yeah.
And then the more deeper, concepts and context of possibly where the artist, where they bring him or her or they themselves into their art. it's a very like intimate, it's kind of like an intimate, it's kind of like a journal, a personal journal, but yet it's, visual. So yeah, but for me, color, composition, and it has to be interesting. I think interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think something, yeah, and unique, something that you feel like you haven't seen before, or even if it's similar, even if artists have that original, like maybe flavor, of another artist that came before them, they still will have their own personal voice. It will
Totally.
always be kind of, it's hard to explain, but yeah.
No, but I totally get your point, and indeed I agree with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So, okay, so the most important.
You love art yourself.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the most important question I had was, like I mentioned before, you try to promote self-awareness through your art. So how do you do that? How do you try to promote self-awareness through your art?
Self-awareness. I like to dig deep with my paintings. I would hope that I express myself non-verbally much more successfully than I do verbally. If I did that, I would be a writer or a speaker or whatever. So it's hard to talk about it. I guess you get more confident with it, but yeah.
Is it like something you feel a lot about and thus try to convey through your art in some way?
Sometimes, okay, so it depends, I guess, on the work, because it's like there's some pieces that I'll go in very blindly. I'll have my materials, and it will sort of be an experiment, and I'll let my kind of intuition or subconscious kind of work on it, and it's working through me, and then I'll see it like afterwards sometimes, and that's amazing. I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know that was happening. Or sometimes I'll have a theme in mind, and I'll try to bring context, into it. But rarely, I think it's hard not to promote self-awareness. To me, it's like art is very personal. And in the years I studied clinical mental health, I had a lot of practice with self-awareness. So I think I've got such a focus, had such a focus on that really stayed with me, and that keeps me wanting to paint. Like that's often the themes and the subjects, I want to paint about or express, or
I got your point. Yeah, totally agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's beautiful, because to really understand that you wish to portray something and convey a message that you feel deeply about, it's great. So
yeah.
Lastly, I had a question that was like, how do you feel of yourself to be where you are today in your journey as an artist?
How do I feel in my own journey as an artist? How do I see myself now?
Like, how do you feel to be where you are today as a person, as an artist?
How do I feel? I feel good. I feel really good. This is why I think I'm doing this now, because I'm 47, okay, and I've had, the one career go away, and then I've tried the second career, and now it's like, you know what? I have nothing to lose, and I love it. It keeps me alive. It's something that like literally makes me jump out of bed every day. I can't explain. I couldn't imagine my life without it. I can't believe that I took so many years off. So in a way, I wish I had gotten to this place years ago. But I'm really enjoying the fact that it is a thing, and I'm really, putting my all into it. I've learned so much about artists and art and processes and techniques and media and it's just it's amazing. It's just a whole world. The art world is just, it's huge. There's so many different avenues, you can go down. But it's so funny how, like, they're less and less, they don't talk it. It's like in schools, they focus less and less on art, seems like these days. So, I mean, I think the whole starving artist concept is, I mean, it's not like it's not true to some extent, but I think that more and more people are finding ways to make it work, and and go into small businesses for themselves. And I just feel like, I don't know, I don't really see myself doing anything else, which is, I don't want to pigeonhole myself, but then again, I don't know, it just sort of, it feels very free. But yeah, I think there's a lot of sacrifice too that I'm starting to learn. It's hard. I think it's challenging. But I think that if you really,
I mean, it must be challenging, but it does give you happiness. That's all that matters in the end.
Yeah.
If that makes you happy, then I mean, it might just overlook the challenges. So.
Yeah. I mean, as long as I'm not on the street, like, I mean, it is challenging from that aspect, from a financial aspect. But if you can get some kind of help in the beginning, or support, to have the support around you, there are some realities to it that you just kind of can't deny. Like, you do need some, some sort of, when you're first starting out, you need money. And so, yeah, but that's why I think it's important to start, if you can, start as young as you can. And for parents to be supportive of their,
I agree to that, absolutely, yeah.
Children, yeah.
Yeah. So it was lovely having this conversation with you, and I loved every bit you talked about. Thank you so much for doing this once again with me, and I loved having you on.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you, Ananya.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay.